Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I'm your host Faisal Raza Khan and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, today is the World Population Day that seeks to highlight the need to advance gender equality with the theme Leave No One Behind, Count Everyone. In 1947, Pakistan had 27 million people. But now, according to the United Nations latest projections, Pakistan's population is over 245 million, the fifth largest in the world. Growing at the rate of 2.5%, might exceed 363 million by 2030, 403 million by 2050, over 487 million by the year 2100. If this scenario persists, it would be alarming for Pakistan. As a result of unprecedented population growth, economy, energy, and financial resources, education and healthcare, employment, housing, infrastructure, agriculture, forest, nothing is sustainable that leads to environmental degradation and make the climatic changes more worse than ever. Why we are not taking the population growth seriously? Why it's not the political priority? Why are we unable to lower the total fertility rate, increase contraceptive prevalence rate, and to make family planning really accepted everywhere? To answer these very complex but very important and pertinent questions, we have in our studios Dr. Sabina DurranI. She is the Director General of National Emergency Health Services from the Ministry of National Health Services Regulation and Coordination, and she is also the former Director General Population Planning Wing. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your presence here in the studios. And we have Dr. Ejaz Ahmad. He is the Senior Environmentalist and the former Senior Director, Worldwide Fund for Nature. Most welcome to you, Dr. Sahab. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Online joining us, Dr. Hidayat. He is the Head of Department of Economics, National University of Modern Languages. Most welcome to you, Dr. Hidayat. Thank you very much for your time as well. My first question to you, Dr. Sabina, that Pakistan has one of the oldest family planning program that was might be started in 1965. Why it was not triggered much? How much it got successful, as right now the population growth rate is 2.5% and it is growing. Contraceptive prevalence rate is only 27% to 34%, while total fertility rate is 3.6 children per woman. That is highest in the South Asia, as compared to Bangladesh, Iran or Turkey. So how do you see such, because we have the programs available, we have the policies intact, but why that was not progressed?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you very much for having me to talk on this important issue. First of all, before giving you answer of all these things, I just want to give you a brief background what happened exactly. When Pakistan was established, by that time our population growth, it was almost the same as that of our neighboring countries like India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and even our economic indicators were also very close to them. But what happened that with time there was multi-fold increase in the population growth, and as compared to our economic growth, whereas in other countries there was population growth the population was growing side by side with economic growth also. So that's the reason that economic growth was because it was on the decline, and it has a very major impact on all spheres of life, whether it is your individual life, it is your community life, and it has impact on the national on the national issues as well. So right now what we can see that every year 9 million pregnancies, 4 million unwanted pregnancies, 11,000 women dies every year, 2,000 more than 2,500,000 children dies during the first month of their lives, then there is scarcity of water causing different diseases, and then you also mentioned that there is shortage of space, climate change, disasters, and you just name that. So we are having all those things. Now coming back, that what happened, because our population program was a very old one.
Yes, it is.
And even at the time that during in 50s, the CPR was close to 3 or 4, but during from 1980 to 1990, what happened that there was a drastic increase in the CPR, contraceptive prevalence rate.
Indeed.
Contraceptive prevalence rate means that the number of women who are using different method of contraceptives, and during that was the golden era, we must say. Some of the factors, in my personal opinion, were that the ICPD, International Conference on Population Development, was held, which was attended by our Prime Minister, and I still her statement in the UN Assembly, it's very close to my heart. She said that I want every woman to have a planned pregnancy, every child to be nurtured, and they must have a good health, and it's a dream, but dream also come true. So that was a thing which is, I mean, I always quote this thing what she said, and there was a high political commitment. During that period, LHW program was launched,
yes,
and at the same time, Population Welfare Department, there were family welfare workers, family welfare assistants, CMWs, village-based workers, and a lot of all these, there were different cadres, and they, I think that they were providing services from door to door, and they were very close to that. And now you can see that, but after that there is the CPR is stagnant, it is 34, sometimes it is 35, 33, so we have not been able to achieve the target. And so that's the thing, that political commitment is one of the, yes, it's one of the factors, but beside that there are many other factors.
Definitely, you are absolutely right. Dr. Ejaz, what about environmental degradation, loss of ecosystem and biodiversity due to the population growth? As more land for housing, infrastructure development, agriculture, industrialization is required, means more heat islands, you have more severe temperatures, and like you have the smog issue in Lahore, Karachi, and more extreme weather events are in waiting. So how do you see such a scenario because of the population growth?
Well, I think it's very much linked because when there is more population, you need more like housing facility, you need more infrastructure in the form of roads, in the form of all the developmental like schemes, more housing, but what happens is that it is at the cost of environmental degradation, it is at the cost of biodiversity loss, because there unfortunately we don't have that kind of services, facilities in the rural areas. So people tend to move to the urban areas in order to have better like health facilities, better education, better services, better jobs. So what happens is then they move to cities, and then without any proper urban planning, like the towns or peri-urban areas are developed, which does not provide that kind of facility. So then that results into the degradation of very highly sensitive or highly biodiversity hotspots, whether it's a wetland, whether it's like a habitat of different species. And ultimately what happens is that at some cases we have loss of species, we have loss of biodiversity in the form of whether it's wildlife species or even some forest area or some critical habitat like water channel, like some wetlands. So there have been like there was no actually proper urban planning, which resulted in this degradation, and that is increasing day by day. One example that we can give is related to Ravi urban development which is going on in Lahore near Ravi river. So mostly river beds are very productive places, nutrient rich places. So mostly people, they grow, you know, like vegetables to feed the urban population. So in this Ravi development project,
But right now Ravi is actually giving us another picture, because this
Yes.
is just like some sort of a nalla, or
Exactly.
it is kind of that, because it is a
all the
drainage right
sewerage,
now rather
exactly,
than to be.
exactly. So and it is again, it is because of the very poor or lack of any planning, urban planning. So
Your point is well taken. Dr. Hidayat sahab, how can any government will address the growing population density, as it is triggering rise in residential needs, unemployment is there, illiteracy, food insecurity, health issues, while income inequality actually worsen, and the resultantly the poverty on rise. It's all negatively impacting the quality of life overall, for what the United Nations Development Program ranks Pakistan 154th out of 189 countries in Human Development Index. How do you see this?
Thank you very much for having me. And as it has been discussed by the other participants, that uh, population or fast growing population rate is not a new issue when it's come to Pakistan. So all these problems which you have been mentioned here is not because of ill planning or taking the population growth non-seriously. It's not just because of one decade issue. It is an issue which has been which we are facing for last 75 odd years. The problem is that when you are having a very fast population growth, so we know, being an economist, we know that resources are limited, and for limited resources, all of the resources will have a certain period of use. So when the resources are limited and when you are putting so much strain on it by such a huge or such a fast population growth rate, so you will be facing the problem of unemployment, you will be facing the problem of illiteracy, you will be facing the problem of poverty. And when the unemployment and poverty and illiteracy will combine, all these factors will push towards the situation which you have described, like our 154th ranking by the UNDP as per the Human Development Index. For Human Development Index, three major parameters are used: income per capita, health indicators in which life expectancy or child mortality, and when we come to education, so it is enrollment and year of education attainment. So when we are missing all the target on these basic three indicators which are used to form Human Development Index, then how can we have a better situation as compared to our neighboring countries or as compared to our region? And unfortunately, like in last decade, we have declined, I think, 20 to 25 ranking on the Human Development Index. So instead of improving on HDI, actually we are, our situation has been deteriorating over the year as far as HDI is concerned.
So, Dr. Hidayat, you were talking about that you have the meager resources and whatever that is. So, several reports actually suggest that Pakistan has consumed around 81% of its available crude oil reserves, 69% of the cumulative gas reservoirs. Our energy resources are actually shrinking. We have to import oil and gas products to run the transport, and we have a heavy import bill actually, that is in billions of dollars. So the power plants, our residential land is actually squeezing. So agriculture, health and financial resources are also on decline. So economy under severe stress right now. So what measures urgently required to, is it not true that we have to control the population growth or at least the total fertility rate, so have some sort of competitiveness with the world in economy?
That is a very pertinent or astute concern which has been raised by you and which is raised by all the people who are concerned about the demographic changes of Pakistan. As far as the resources mentioned by you, all of those are non-renewable or depletable. So those resources will ultimately come to an end. The problem is that how fast or how effectively we can replace those non-renewable or depletable resources by the renewable resources. Like how efficiently we are having our energy mix, which have more proportion of solar, which have more proportion of hydel, or which have more proportion of even the other kind of renewable resources. Now, if we look at the situation of Pakistan, instead of moving towards renewable resources, we have policy which are pushing people away from the renewable resources. And its example is like the fast, like the policies which are promoting solarization, or people were shifting to solarization for last 3 or 4 years. And that was not because of the government incentive, it was because of the highest uh, power tariff, electricity
Definitely.
bill,
Energy cost, yes.
yeah, energy cost, which have pushed the people for the solarization. Now when the government have sensed that the people are moving towards solarization, it is drawing the incentive which were earlier provided to the solar system, or to the household which are having the solar system. So to conclude it, first of all, we need to have a very good energy mix, which is gradually bringing in the renewable resources and replacing the depletable resources or non-renewable resources. The second thing is that, as it has been mentioned by you, the import bill. For the import bill, we are supposed to have efficient energy utilization, which can be done at micro level as well as at macro level. By micro level, I mean that we should have household, or we should have offices which are more energy efficient. Our current construction code doesn't support the efficient housing or efficient office space or even efficient production space. The second part of that is macro. At macro level, how much efficient our production facilities are, how much efficient our transportation system is, how much efficient our cleaning and heating system at the household level are. So for that, we will have to invest, and we will have to seek cooperation from from other countries, like from our neighboring country, China, that how fastly it has moved its automotive sector from the
Definitely, Dr. Hidayat, definitely. You are absolutely right. Your point well taken. But Dr. Sabina, Pakistan has committed not once but several times internationally to bring down total fertility rate to at least 2.8 children by 2025. Now it is approaching. Then 2.2 by 2030. Contraceptive prevalence rate from 35% to 50% by 2025 and 60% by 2030. And that is mother mortality rate from 170 to 70 per 100,000 live births by 2030. So where we stand right now?
Yeah, with this pace of implementation of our program activities, of course, we will not be able to achieve the target. And every year we will have to ask the international community that give us time, and by during the next 5 years or 10 years we will improve the indicators, but it is never going to be happen like that. For increasing the CPR, and before answering my question, I just want to say that resources are never going to be unlimited. Even if you use the solar energy, everything, so it needs money, and money economy is the basic thing. So this is just as a thought.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. There is a break to every resource,
yeah,
so
exactly.
we have to be very
so
cautious
they are
on
not
that.
going to be unlimited. So the CPR, for increasing the CPR, right now it is 34. Almost 34, and by next year we need to improve it to 50%. Currently we have 40 million, currently women in reproductive age, they are 40 million. Only less than 10 million are using the contraceptives, and they have access to contraceptives. So to get the target, we need to increase it by 50%, like 20 million women will be using that. Another thing is that we have 17% of the women having unmet need. Unmet need means that women, they want to use contraceptives, but they do not have this facility. They do not have the availability of that. This is the low hanging fruit.
Obviously.
If we focus on that, then of course we will be able to achieve certain to achieve certain targets in that. Another issue is we don't have contraceptives, like we are importing that. We have only pills, we have only injection which are locally produced, but for long acting contraceptives we have to use our foreign currency. And in this state you can well imagine how difficult it is for Pakistan to use the foreign to use the foreign exchange for this purpose. So last year we requested UNFPA to provide contraceptives, and they agreed, and then now they have provided contraceptives worth around $2.5 million. But you know, it's not the solution for that. We need local production of contraceptives. We need tax exemption to facilitate the market. Even the condoms, we are importing it from Bangkok. So I mean, it's surprising that we can, being a nuclear country, we cannot produce contraceptives. These are different steps. These are certain specific steps. And taking this opportunity to mention few more things, like it's a time for the policy makers to review and revisit the NFC award, because NFC award, it is mainly based on population based. Most of the weightage, more than 90% of the weightage is given to population. The more the population, the more the resources.
Means you want to say that most of the provinces are focusing more on having population to have NFC award.
Because in NFC award, most of the weightage is given to population, and this was the issue which was also felt in India and in Bangladesh.
It's an obvious issue.
Yeah,
yes,
and what they did, that they have given 50% of this weightage to population, and the remaining they focused on improving the social indicators like women empowerment, education,
that is more lucrative. Ultimately,
exactly.
That starts the competition between the provinces to have social protection.
Otherwise, decreasing, if they will decrease the population, this means they will be getting less resources, there will be decline in the political.
And why not to add green growth in that as well? Because that will ultimately pave the way for having more sustainable societies we have in our country. So, Dr. Ejaz, do you not think that the population growth actually led to the shrinking of the forest cover, which is only 5.1%, and what we are getting the figures from different UN organizations, that is 4.8 now. Yes. So that is an alarming rate of 1.5%, the deforestation per annum, as 32% of the country's total energy need, what the Dr. Hidayatullah was stressing upon, the energy mix. But how is it possible then when your 90% of the rural areas, they are dependent upon the fuel wood, and 60% of the urban households, even they are using fuel wood. So while housing, road infrastructures, as you have mentioned, other aspects are also contributors to the deforestation. So how to tackle such a grave issue, because we are losing green cover?
Yeah, I think it's very important to see, as we just saw, about what happens as far as policy is concerned. So I mean, like, there is contradiction, you know, like if we talk about NFC award, so it says, you know, have more population, so you will get more money.
Yes.
But on contrary, we have signed many agreements where we have agreed to actually reduce the population. But then I think another aspect is to look how we can utilize this population in our favor. how many, I mean like, and we know that youth.
There are lots of dividends of this population as well.
So more than 50% is youth. What kind of planning have we done for youth and use them as a resource? Because you know, like most of, I mean, with after COVID, mostly youth is being used for innovations, and they have come up with so many different you know, like positive things, positive businesses. And in India, in China, in US, in Europe, youth are now dominating in innovation.
You are absolutely right, because China's unprecedented growth is led by that population.
They have used
and that chunk of youth, which we call youth bulge, they have contributed a lot to the Chinese development.
Yes,
it is because of the positivity of the population growth.
And the policy, you know, like we need to need to include. I mean, like we are saying that this population growth, although it has a negative impact also, but I think now this is a problem, and how we can solve this problem is to engage whatever we have, is to educate them.
Population is a problem because of the huge policy vacuum, basically.
Exactly. Or contradiction in the policy.
And unfortunately, the implementation is not there.
So as far as, I mean, like the green urban development, the growth, the forest, the other resources, environmental degradation process is going on, and it is because of the movement from the rural to urban.
Because you can't stop the population needs.
Exactly.
You have to fulfill it. That's why we call it social protection.
That is exactly what is happening. But I think engaging youth, like we have this green youth movement in many universities, which actually trains youth in various environmental related areas. For example, afforestation, waste management, water conservation. So we need to, you know, like enhance their role.
Definitely.
We need to engage them more and more. And government has already, you know, like this initiative upscaling the green and clean Pakistan, where billion tree plantation is going on regular basis, and according to the estimate, 2 billion trees have been actually added into the environment for last 4 or 5 years. So this is something which is, you know, like positive coming out, but I think we need to think more critically and practically how we can engage. It's just like flood. So you can use flood as a disaster, or you can
an
use
opportunity
an
as well.
opportunity also.
Definitely.
So we are water stress country. And the flood water.
I'll come to that point. I will come to that point. Dr. Sabina, what about the national action plan that was once envisaged to cater the population growth and all that? Subsequently, Pakistan Family Planning Vision 2030, again 2030, and how much efforts implied actually to achieve family planning and reproductive health transformation vision of 3 zeros by 2030, because these were all very important, and you were at that time DG as well. So now lots of things goes to you as well.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, after devolution, when most of the ministries were devolved, population was also one of the ministry.
After 2010.
And even though it's a national issue, it's not only a provincial issue, because it's a national issue.
Obviously,
then
obviously.
in response to so motu action by the Supreme Court, this national action plan and the provincial action plans were developed. They were in consultation with all provinces. They required funding, because for normal routine activity, you know, currently we are using 26 billion, around 26 billion rupees per year for population activities. Out of that, around 18% is by the government of Pakistan, and rest by the NGOs, by the CSOs, by the units. So government of Pakistan is already using a lot of money on that. But unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know what to say, but it is for operational cost is more than 16-17%. So for program activity, it is only 1.7%. So we need funding for that. For even if you want to use the contraceptives, you need fund, because you need you will have to import that. And for if you want to provide services at the community, then you need more human resource. So I think this is the time that integration is very essential. integration of all programs like family planning. We run family planning separately, mother and child health separately. But there is nutrition program, and the end result of every program is to improve the mother and child health.
Obviously,
so this is the
obviously,
time
you're
that
right.
we should combine all those things. Otherwise, again I am saying that these resources are never going to be unlimited. And definitely there will be scarcity. And now just one more thing, that National Action Plan is very important. It is going to be a living document.
Yes, it is.
Should be improved every year. And right now we must declare this population as a national emergency. And national like COVID, when it was declared as an emergency, then all the provinces were on board, everybody was on board, and we, shukr alhamdulillah, we were able to control the situation much better. So it's a national emergency, and even population is mentioned as one of the security threat in your national policy. So I mean, this is the right time that instead of celebrating these days and I mean spending my money on that, let's focus. We know the disease, and now we know all the signs and symptoms. Now this is the time to cure that.
Definitely, you are absolutely right. Dr. Ejaz, when population explosion triggering more use of fossil fuels,
Yes.
more greenhouse gas emissions, it is obvious, rising air pollution, resultantly the smog issue, heat waves. So why we are not taking urgent actions to tackle the real cause behind, as Dr. Sahaba is rightly pointing out, it's a national security threat as well?
Well, I think we look for like support from outside. We don't try to solve our own problems. The smog issue, as you mentioned, is something we can actually like control by managing the transport sector, because 80% of the air pollution is related to transportation sector.
Obviously, it is.
And if we can manage that, which is in our control, catalytic converters are being used, whether they are properly being like managed. Similarly, oil change. Similarly, the motor. Like these are some of the things that we can do ourselves. We don't need a rocket science. We don't need money from outside. So, but then it depends how sincere we are with ourselves. I think the burning of straw during the winter time is another issue, which adds up.
It's another huge issue. We have a cross-border issue.
So that is also in our control. Like there are certain things which are in our control, and if we start demonstrating that, okay, we are concerned with our problems,
80
and we
to
want
90% of the problems we can resolve by ourselves.
We need a will.
Definitely,
political
will is required, and then practical actions are required on ground.
Exactly.
Definitely. Dr. Hidayatullah sir, very quick, because we have very run short of time. So, what to talk about? 64% of the youth bulge. They need best education, skills, health, and jobs. So now a country has unemployment rate that is 6.3, officially 8%, unofficially. Youth from 15 to 24 of years of age, unemployment rate is 11.1%. That's horrible. 26.2 million children are actually out of school, more than 20% population undernourished. Then nearly 45% of the children under 5 are stunted. So what we talk about 64% of the youth bulge?
Oh, yeah, actually these are all the consequences of fast population growth or rapid population growth. So what we are seeing, it is because of our ill planning of last 75 years or so, and the population bulge is not a bad thing at all. Look at the example of China. The China has used
We
that
call
population.
it demographic dividend, but we have to focus on that. There are lots of needs of our youth as well.
Yes, so the
We
problem
don't have
is
to
that,
take it in isolation, really.
yeah, the problem is that when you are having, like for example, a person is having a dozen of ladders. So instead of using those ladders to climb the wall, if he or she starting burning those ladders, so at the end of the day, he or she will be at the same point where he was. For using that population bulge, or for using that population growth rate, you need to have really sound human resource development policies. The second thing is that beside human resource development policy, you are supposed to come out of your conventional education system. When, as it has been mentioned by one of the participants, that we are going through an emergency period. So for emergency period, you need emergency solutions. So conventional education is not solution at this kind of situation. You need to have vocational training. You need to have
Actually, Dr. Sabina was stressing to have a population emergency in the country. Right now, we are not going through any sort of an emergency, but the thing is that we need population emergency at the national level to cater the needs of the population. Along with that, we have to control that population, which is unprecedentedly growing.
Actually, you know that where is the problem? The problem lies at the grassroots level. Whenever a policy, especially when we are talking about a sensitive issue like population growth, whenever a policy is made, it is met at the top. The people at the grassroots level, at the community level, they are not taken on board. Keeping in view its political sensitivity and religious sensitivity, it's a high time we are supposed to take our community, our religious leaders, different communities on board.
We are talking about how much federal and provincial task forces are effective in achieving desired results, whether we have sensitized communities and the political leaders, as Dr. Hidayat is actually stressing, religious scholars, the traditional and non-traditional media, in which you have TV channels, newspapers, along with social media platforms and all that, academic institutions, the think tanks, to effectively disseminate the message of family planning.
Before answering that question, I would just like to have one, I just want to say something. This youth is our asset also.
No
this
doubt,
population
no doubt
is our asset
yes.
also.
Yes.
But I must quote Nelson Mandela's saying that in countries where education and health become profitable businesses,
yes,
no one can prevent that country from destruction.
Obviously.
And you can see the situation over here.
It is happening.
We need the skilled, it's not only training of the youth, it is the skilled worker. And this is the time that we must find internationally where we can fit those youth, because here we don't have the job, we don't have education, we don't have, there is scarcity of everything.
Obviously.
So like India and like other countries, what they are doing, international market, they are keeping all their experts and they are moving their experts to the international market, and
yes,
this is the quality services where they are providing.
Definitely.
So and then another thing that what Hidayatullah Sahab said, that community is not on board. Yes, so, I'm saying that 17% of the women, they want to have contraceptives, but we don't have the contraceptives to provide them. They don't have the accessibility.
Obviously.
Like religious scholar, we have there is notification we have of all the religious scholars from all sects. They are working in close contact with the ministry on population issue. Then all the media experts, they are working with ministry. Even the media, the private and from the public and the private sector, all media, they had a very detailed discussion with the previous president of Pakistan also. So everybody is on board, and it's a myth, and it's wrong misconception. It's a misconception.
But we have to strive for better. We have to do it because this is the national cause. Dr. Ejaz, how do you see the human activities like improper waste disposal, inadequate sewage treatment, industrial effluents, agrochemicals, polluting aquatic resources, while per capita water availability declined below 1,000 cubic meters from 5,600 cubic meters in 1950s. So water pollution and water scarcity again both intensified.
Well, this is of course an issue because with the increase in population, we have limited resources, and these resources are depleting. So we need to come up with certain policies. For example, as far as water is concerned, if we see there are different options related to rainwater harvesting, water recharge, and all these activities can enhance the underground water table. But unfortunately, again, I think there are issues related to technical know-how. There are issues related to like political will, where people political decisions are taken, but they are not implemented. New government comes, the previous decisions are just slashed. So ultimately there is no continuity.
Obviously.
And I think that results in depletion of resources and also wastage of resources, because you spend a lot of money on certain initiative and ultimately that is
Definitely, your point well taken. Dr. Hidayat, last question, sir. But if we are serious in tackling the economic issues, why population control is not in political elites' agenda? Because whatever economic growth a country attains, collect revenue, earn foreign exchange, attract foreign investments or so on, that goes in vain due to the genuine needs of the population. Or to have, when you have a population growth, you will have to expend all those finances on them.
Okay, like as I have mentioned, first of all, this is a very sensitive issue, and that's why most of the political parties try to shy away with this thing. The second thing, it is not in their list of priorities. If you look at the health, if you look at the educational budget, I think it is meager budget. You cannot have the kind of human resource development. You cannot have the kind of skill development which our neighbor countries are having with available or with the allocated resources for that. The third component is that, like it has been mentioned by one of our participants, that the policy making. When there are two type of policies. One are informed policies and the other are ill-informed policies. Informed policies are always data backed. There is a huge research at the back of that. I am working as a researcher for last 17 or to 20 years. I have not seen even a single research proposal or request for research on the demographic side.
Unfortunately, we have to end here. Thank you very much for your presence online. Thank you very much, Dr. Sabina, for your presence in the studios. Thank you very much, Ejaz. Viewers, as you have just listened to our panelists, unfortunately, we are stressing hard on population control, because population growth at the rate of 2.5% is unfortunately very threatening to Pakistan's real resources and to development as well. As Dr. Sabina stressed upon, that contraceptives must have to be manufactured locally, and unfortunately we are using imported one. The accessibility issues we have, lots of population wants to use it, but we don't have. The tax exemptions must have to be there. National Finance Commission award not to be based on population, but must be based on social protection and on green growth. That is very important. Population a national emergency must have to be declared at the national level, because it is a security threat if we are not properly addressing this issue. Alarming population growth actually creates hurdles in economic growth, affects equal distribution of resources and the flow of investments. Providing essential services like education, healthcare, employment and to everyone would be a distant dream. We as a nation have to think without investing we have to think that without investing in education, family planning, women empowerment and green growth, attaining sustainable development and prosperity would be a difficult task. And remember, leave no one behind, count everyone. This is today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah.